Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Shawnee. Here. Bird. Here. Conscript. Here. Capitan. Here.
Approve the meeting the minutes of the regular meeting, February 11th, 2025.
Motion. Second. No. Aye. Aye.
Do I have a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
First item we have is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Excuse me. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those say aye.
That means roll call.
Oh.
Shawnee. Yes. Aye. Aye. Capitan. Aye.
Aye. Okay, and on to number 6, Tana, for receive January 2025 financials.
Oh, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I guess I can go over the PowerPoint that is included in your packet if you prefer. Otherwise, there was everything in the packet is what I had to present today. The only thing I want to note is with the parking. We had reported that the parking was under budget, and it still is under budget. Let's see if I can share here really quick. And it still is under budget, but what we just caught yesterday was some of the reservation income didn't get credited to the month of January. And so once that reservation money was credited, the parking only ended up being about $195,000 under budget rather than what is reflected in your packet. So that did improve a little bit. The reservation money comes in separately than the monthly parking. And so that was the difference that we found yesterday. The other thing I just wanted to point out, as far as the January financials go, everything looks on track for the operating fund. The car rentals were ahead of budget. There's no major surprises for the first month of the year. One thing to point out though was the employments have been really strong. In January, I know it's showing in your packet, in January we were at, we have broken a record, and now I just kind of had gotten the statistics sent over, and it looks like in February we had broken a record too. So that is going to be really nice to see, and that'll be reflected in your board packet as well next month. The employments for February were actually 47,971. So nice to see that the first couple months of the year we have already broken the records. The other thing in your packets would be the parking. Last month we had talked about, you know, we know that the parking is coming in under budget, and we were looking to get some parking statistics. And so I did put those, that information in your packet, and I did receive that information at Greg from SP Plus. And I believe he is on the call today too. If you have any further questions, he would be better able to answer those. But I think I was able to decipher them pretty good and just put in some big highlights of our parking revenue. This January compared to last January, our employment revenue had gone down from $14 down to $11.50. And we know that as far as the parking goes, we know that our cars our transactions, as they're called, have been less. So in last January, our transactions per month were 13,000 cars. And in this January, they were 11,600 cars. So we know that, we know it's due to construction and we know it'll come back after construction. But just pointing those out. So I didn't know if any of you had any more specific questions that Greg might be able to answer regarding that.
So Tana, under items to watch, it says parking, 258 or 258,000 under budget. And then you mentioned the reserved or the other funds that you found. So what is the net then of that total?
Sure.
What are we under budget?
So after we put the reservations in the reservation income in January where it belonged, we're about 195,000 under budget.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, and that will reflect in the February packets as far as the year-to-date numbers and everything. So next month, those numbers will be updated as well.
Chairman?
Yes.
So I think maybe my question is as much for Greg as Tana. I think obviously when I look at this, I'm actually pleased that it's not down more. I'm congratulations to all the efforts that have been put forth on parking. It seems like people have really liked the valet and it's helped just cover a lot of things. And obviously we're full right now, so that's a challenge. But again, thanks for all the forward thinking and what we've done to accommodate that. I guess my question really is, there's obviously a lot of people that are being dropped off or taking taxis and Uber. They're not parking. And so just on a marketing thing, when we get this completed, is there a strategy to get people using the ramp and using the parking lot again? I'm just thinking maybe we have a lower fees to get people in there and get it using, and then longer term make sure that it's sustainable. So any thoughts on that, Greg?
For sure, and just to add to what you just stated, kudos to the administration and the team for having the forward thinking to build the overflow lot, which is currently near capacity. And the only reason it's not at capacity is because we kind of pulled back leading into this week, which is the week of spring break for the public schools as well. So had we not had that lot this past weekend, we would have really been in a pinch. So kudos to the board for that. To answer your question, yes, what we would like to do leading up to the opening of the garage is leverage our CRM database. That database is growing steadily. The most recent jump in growth is 51%, and that's just through reservations. So what we would like to do is just engage with the stakeholders that have either went on our website and subscribed to receive information, if you will, from us, to let them know that, hey, the ramp is opening, this is what the rate will be, pretty much we want you back type situation. We do not have as much leakage as I would have thought, to be honest with you, and that speaks to what you just stated, Mr. Berg. In most cases, when you build a ramp at Sioux Falls, right up the road is the best example. They lost a significant amount of revenue during that period. Just to be very candid, they actually went on a campaign to try to encourage folks to take TNCs and taxis and so forth. The good thing you had in your back pocket was space for additional parking and space for a valet operation. So the short answer is yes, we do plan to make sure we engage leading up to the ramp, at least about 3 months out or so, and definitely make sure that we can get those parkers to utilize the facility. The good thing, again, you have dynamic pricing through reservations, so you don't necessarily have to lower the drive-up rate for your parking ramp. You can do it organically through just reservations based off the capacity and based off what we see with respects to reservations. We can give discounts if we need to, and then we can kind of make that at a moment's notice. So we don't have to do it in advance, and we don't have to do it for the drive-up customers. The drive-up customers can still pay the agreed-upon rate, but reservation customers can potentially benefit from those discounts through dynamic pricing.
Well, good. Yeah, I think we need to be cognizant of that there's going to be, we don't want people who are used to getting rides and Ubers and that type of thing to kind of keep doing that when we have everything done. So I'd be very open to creating, again, the dynamic pricing or some special incentives in the fall. So by the time we get to the busy season of December, November, people are just automatically going to drive and park and ramp or park in one of our lots. So thank you for thinking about that.
You're very welcome.
I'd like, okay.
Tana, just where are we on the audit schedule there?
I believe the audit is pretty much wrapped up. Sean, you can help me out here. Are they going to be on site yet for a couple more days just to spot check some of the construction projects, or have they done that part yet?
We expect them back one more day here. I think they're fairly well completed. I should have a draft of it here in the next week and a half or so.
I think it has gone very smooth. I took some notes for some special things that they're looking for next year and stuff. But from my perspective, I think it has gone very well and very clean. I can't speak to when they were actually on site, how many questions they have for Sean and Joan, but I do believe it has been a very good audit.
Okay. They going to have any questions for the board, or are they skipping that?
Normally they'll engage the chair, so Jim, you should be getting the call if you haven't already. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I did. I did get a call.
Okay.
It was pretty much straight and narrow on the road.
Just a note in case anybody was interested, the interest line item for the revenue is still high, but we have been notified by the banks that the interest rate has now dropped to 4%. So the revenue line item on the income statement, you'll be seeing coming down because we are using those reserve funds, and the interest rate that was at one point above 5% has now come down to 4%. And as far as projects and everything, the terminal project is right on track. The parking project is on track. Within the next month or so, I plan to build out the cash forecast possibly all the way through 2031, penciling in a lot of, what ifs and where we think potential funding will go, to have a better look, into the future past the terminal and the parking project. So those updates will be coming in future meetings.
Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion on the financials?
Move to approve.
Second. We need
All
to,
those approved. All those approved.
Roll.
Oh, it's okay.
Johnny, roll.
Yes.
Right.
Aye. Thank you, Tana. Number 7, update from TL Stroh Architects on parking structure. Terry?
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Parking structure is going along really well. Actually, this week they'll finish up the precast concrete. That's super exciting. We're continuing to, you'll see the shelters along the lower level. We're continuing to heat that and do the underground drains and stuff in there. They're gonna be starting the roof possibly this week, and we're still on schedule. So everything's going well there. One thing I need to ask is, if you remember a while back, we were looking at possibly putting screening like we're having in the column parts of the structure. We were going to put screens in the openings at each garage level on the north and west side. We discussed that, and we were basically waiting to see if funding would be available to do that. We've been notified by McGuff that we are good to go there. We saved a little over $300,000 from flash parking. We're a little over $600,000 under budget. The cost of doing the screening on the north and west sides would be $955,830. And Miguel feels very confident in the fact that at the stage in the project that we're covered and won't be, needing any extra dollars. So that was something that I believe Dr. Bashani said, let's wait and see if we have enough money. Everybody kind of nodded their heads, but now we're at that point and we need a formal decision on that.
Sean, could we get your recommendation on that?
Yes, I would move forward with putting screens on the north and west.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Johnny?
Yes.
Bert?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
Kaptan?
Aye.
Aye.
Sean, you want Jeff to go over that way we can save some time on the Skyway?
We'll do that in the next section, Terry.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Terry. Any other discussion? Okay. Number 8 is an update from Needham Hunt regarding the passenger terminal expansion and modification. And we have Brandon.
Hey, good morning, everybody. That was a great segue, Terry. But second on the list before we get into the parking in the sky update on the terminal. So you'll see is still a lot of exterior work on the roof and the parapet framing, and then that purple sheathing going on the north side as well as the south side. The wood decking is all installed, so that's done, and temporary roofs are being put in place for protection until the permanent roof is in place. Glue lamps, all those timber columns and beams, those are all installed. And then down in level 1, all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, overhead work is ongoing. There's a lot of work down in that area, so you'll see that continuing for a while. The level 1 back of house mechanical work is continuing, and then you'll start to see some of the interior framing as well. So once they get that interior framing in, then all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing can start doing all their rough-in work on the interior as it goes between first, second, and third floor. So a lot happening. Over on that site, they're on schedule. They've used a couple weather days, but I think we still have like 8 weather days that they're anticipating. And just a reminder, those weather days are days that they built into the schedule, where temperature may drop below a level where it's safe for the people to work, or wind that could constrain them from setting things on the roof or what have you. So we're still doing well there. As far as budget, you'll see in the board packet that we have our final GMP for the project, which is the renovation GMP amendment. This is for the renovation piece. This one, if you recall, we had still did collected numbers for this. The budget came in under what we anticipated, a little under, about $3,600. So that was good. So the actual number was $25,838,211. So All in all, GMPs all adding up. They came in under budget. That's great news. Again, we're still being cautious because once you get into the renovation, that's kind of a period of discovery. Things you're opening up walls and ceilings, and so we want to be cautious there and still be cautious with our contingency and the money that we've saved so far, and keep that in place until we get kind of over that hump. So today we're looking for just approval for the GMP number 5.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Maybe define that a little more, GMP number 5.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, that so that is the renovation of the existing terminal, and then there's also some site work that we worked through and coordinated around the hotel planning, kind of that area on the land side. That's all part of this GMP number 5 terminal.
And so this is part of the original bid.
Yes, yeah, this is all the work. Well, majority of the work in the existing terminal. So we're gutting all that concourse, existing concourse, laying that out, redoing all the restrooms, redoing the atrium, all the baggage claim and the casework and the rentals.
So then the question would be, how does this tie in with what we forecast? Dollar-wise.
This is less than what we forecasted.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Yeah, Sean, I know things are changing rapidly, but any concern as we're looking forward to grants here? It's kind of our last checkpoint of where we could stop if we had to.
Well, I mean, there's always concern on the grants. On the discretionary side, we're still waiting to hear on one discretionary grant. If we decide to move forward with, instead of renovating the 4 remaining boarding bridges that we have, one that we're going to acquire from Unify, if we purchase new bridges instead of renovate, we'll have an opportunity to submit for an ATP grant. Senator Hoeven is interested in pursuing getting us the dollars for that if we decide to go with the new bridges instead of renovating the existing. We talked about that at the last meeting. Outside of that, we're just waiting for the entitlements to come that we have already been budgeted. We're just waiting for those grants to come through.
Well, that was kind of, Rick, I think that was when we first started this, we wanted to have those sort of checkpoints where if we had to stop, we could stop. It seems to be the last stop. So I understand we have to go through the process and everything, but nothing of concern at this point that would say.
If I could just interject for 1 second. Initially, when we started the GMP 5 or the renovations, we initially projected it to be at 28 million, was kind of the rough guess.
Okay.
And then back in June of last year, we changed it to 25.8 million. And now, as Brandon said, that came in about $3,600 less at 25.8. So it has come down 3 million than where we were initially forecasting to begin with.
And overall, our terminal construction budget versus what we have right now, we are under by about 1.4 million. So we are doing very well.
Call the question.
So is there a motion to approve the GMP?
There has been a motion and a second.
And a second. Okay, let's do a roll call.
Shawnee?
Yes.
Bird? Cosgrove?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next up, we're going to review vehicle traffic plan.
Yes. And I will hand that over to, I think Jeff might be in the room there.
I'm here.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so this is the vehicle traffic plan for Skyway construction. And it looks like we have some screen sharing here to do to help describe what that is going to do. So Jeff, take it away.
I'll try here.
Oh, come on. That's it? Bottom right. Where is it, that one? Yeah. Oh, no, no. There you go. Yep. Now I just get rid of this. Just got to click on it. Up to the left of that box. Click. I did that. Just click.
And Jeff, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Jeff Klein. I'm a project manager with Kate Hunt, and I'm helping out both Brandon and Terry on this Skyway project. So, and it's interconnected with the shuttle link. So we just wanted to give you the authority an update on where we're at. So, beginning this spring, construction on the Skyway and the shuttle lane will begin, and a good majority of that is going to happen within the existing construction fence that is out there today. So it's just going to be business as usual as far as traffic goes. And now if we fast forward to approximately the 1st of August of this year, the parking structure will be open for use. And now we have to come up with a plan to basically build the Skyway structure and then, the exterior envelope. And the original plan was to, keep Dakota Drive open and constructed in a north half and a south half. And I think everyone was just uneasy with that, just from obviously a safety standpoint, trying to intermix construction activity with, a congested drop off and pickup area. So safety first, and then just, it just, when you obviously, break it up into more pieces, you just lose efficiency from a construction standpoint. So what we had done was come up with a plan to route the drop off and pickup lane through the first floor of the parking structure. So, vehicles will come up Dakota Drive just as they do today, and then we'll have to build a bypass to get them into the first floor. And then the red lines or red dash lines that are on there are concrete barricades just to channel all the traffic through. There's a lot going on this drawing here. I admit that, but the yellow lanes are drop-off lanes, and then the green lane is a through lane for vehicles. So they'll enter on the east just like they do today, and then on a temporary basis, then they'll exit on the west end. And all this time, levels 2, 3, and 4 are open for paying customers. They'll enter in the southeast corner there. They'll use a speed ramp to reach those upper levels. So that you're going to have 750 stalls that you didn't have previously, in the structure. People will be able to use the stairwell and elevators to get down to the main level. They'll have to exit on that first floor into the structure on the south side, and then they'll either go left or right, and then utilize the sidewalks to get into the building. So it provides, and then people coming from the long-term lot will just enter through the first floor of the parking structure itself. So there's still minor details to work out on this as far as access for delivery trucks. There's access for emergency vehicles that need to get to the building. But this is, in my mind, this is the best approach to build the Skyway, so we can do it in one phase. And when it's all said and done, it's going to
correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but it's gonna save 4 months of construction. So Dakota Drive will reopen approximately February of 2026. So the Skyway won't be done because there's still interior work to do, but traffic will return to normal operations. The first floor of the structure will be open at that time.
So how many months construction is this gonna for?
It'll be 6 to 7. So it'll start 1st of August and then go to February of 2026.
It seems like a problem for us. It seems like our busy months in November, December, January, and February are going to create a mess. I mean, is there a shorter timetable? I mean, does this have to wait until August 1 to start? It seems to me our goal is to have this working when we run into our busy time. So do you have any other alternatives that would have this done by January 1 or December 1? Or do we wait,
Joe? So
or do you wait and start a year from now and let the parking lot?
yeah, you'd have to push it off.
Well, I understand what's best for construction, but I'm just
So we are starting the foundations in June of this year while we have control of the parking ramp site, like Jeff said. So there's helical piles and concrete foundations that are currently on the ramp site within the site fence, and so is that additional lane that we're putting in. So all of that is starting before we are done with the parking ramp and we have control of the site. What Jeff's referring to is come August 1, when the parking ramp is done and we no longer have control of that site because it's open. That is when we wanted to start shutting down Dakota Drive, because now all the traffic, pedestrian and vehicle, can go through the parking ramp. And we would take all of Dakota Drive and streamline the structure, all of the steel, the decking, pouring the concrete over the entire thing, and that would shave 4 months off of the construction schedule. If we don't want to do this and we don't want to shut Dakota Drive, we would just go back to our original schedule where we would be shutting down 2 lanes on the north, 2 lanes on the south, 2 lanes on the north, 2 lanes on the south, because we can't have traffic driving underneath the construction site because they're inevitably going to drop things on cars and insurance and all that good stuff, or bad stuff. So this was just the plan to shave 4 months off the schedule, and yes, there would absolutely be headaches of sending people through the parking ramp. But if this is not a viable option, then we would just keep the construction.
So I understood. She said this shaves 4 months off.
Yeah.
So the original was to go through like May of 26.
Correct.
Yeah.
Doing it in halves.
For the entirety of the Skyway.
Then there would be no parking revenue on the main floor of the ramp.
Correct. Yep. Levels, you're gonna have 750 stalls generating revenue for. So
Right, but there's no.
I have a question.
yes,
Can a portion of the Skyway be constructed off-site and then moved into place? And number 2, where do we have handicap drop-off when people are need access to the terminal with less that have less mobility?
I can't speak to the.
Yeah, the
Construction
structure can
offsite.
absolutely be constructed offsite and hung into place, but you're still, like when you're doing helical piles, you saw how big the drill rig was when we were doing helical piles on the parking ramp. So you still have the drill rig, you still need the telehandler. That's the foundations. Then once the structure is on site, you still have a large crane to build it offsite, and we're working with the steel guy on a plan to do that. But there's still always safety concerns with having a crane on site and lifting steel into place. So the answer is yes, that will happen. Some of it will be built offsite and hung into place, basically north half and south half. There's still final connections, overhead work. It can't be fully complete offsite and hung into place and it's just done. There has to be final connections and overhead work done afterwards. But yes,
So that's already in the plan. Okay.
And then as far as the accessibility, early on we acknowledged that yes, the drop off lane is further away from the building, and I guess they would the people needing extra help would be dropped off in those same drop-off lanes shown there. And I guess, I don't know if the airport can provide assistance to those people. But there's just, that's tough. So, I mean, I guess there are accessible stalls within the old short-term lot that were there. I mean, that's no further than those stalls are at. So
You could also probably use the car rental area for drop off for those handicapped individuals.
Thank you. I just saw that. That would maybe be an alternative if they could
Correct.
enter and that a handicap drop off right by the car rental. Okay.
Have you worked with SB Plus on this? They seen this?
we have not with SP Plus, just with the airport here. So.
I'd like to get their review on it. I mean, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm just like, is there a way we can, because we're really 6 months now beyond August 1 when the parking ramp's done to complete this.
Sure.
And I guess I was under the impression that they would be done in a similar time.
Okay.
But
The Skyway.
yeah, is there any way of compressing this 6 month time? I mean, I guess that'd be my question.
You can always do weekends, overtime. You can always compress the schedule. It's just how much do you want to pay to do it.
That's really our revenue starts in December on the parking ramp. That's our big month, December, January, February, March. It might be worth it for us to spend a little more to compress that time. Anyway.
Rick, maybe it's totally undoable, but what would happen if we waited to do the Skyway for a year? That, through the busy season next year, you operate without the Skyway, and the Skyway starts construction spring of next year.
So when the Skyway's being constructed, Jeff, then that's when the Dakota Drive will be widened and that surface will be addressed as well?
No, this will, Dakota Drive, the shuttle lane that's shown up there will be constructed prior to August 1st of this year. Back to Joe's point, while they have, control of the site as it exists today, majority of that work can be done within the existing construction fence.
So a delaying is not a possibility.
It is a possibility. We would have to update our schedule and then resend it out to subcontractors and see what their escalation would be to wait a year to push it off a year. But we would still like to get the foundations for the Skyway that are on the ramp side of things while we have control of that site, and then get that additional lane in as well while we have control of the site, and not take everything down and then essentially remow next spring. I think would be more advantageous, but we can do whatever you want. It would just be sending it out to subs and seeing what this does to them.
Excuse me, can I interject just one thing? When we think about this, so now, the congestion with regards to building the ramp and terminal, especially the ramp, has messed up people and they're parking a long ways away and that kind of thing. When we take into consideration the time of the year we're in and the busy time parking, do you want to consider the fact that we have 500 more stalls than we have previously ever had next to the terminal that will get to be used and possibly alleviate some of that bottleneck for running this through? I'm just thinking we're going to be we're gonna be parking a lot of people. Less people will have to be dropped off. Just a thought.
Well, what are you saying, Terry?
Well, I'm saying, I don't know if it's worth stopping construction and waiting, because if we wait a year, I'm guessing prices are gonna change. And realistically, we are alleviating a bunch of parking issues with the ramp while we do this. So I think that a little bit of inconvenience of going through the ramp won't really be as big a deal because we're going to be, I think, having more people using the ramp than have it being dropped off. That's what I'm getting at. So I just think that's the other thing. I'm not sure if Joe's, I don't remember if Joe said anything, but if you wait a year, the price is going to change for sure. Is that true, Joe?
Yes.
So Joe and
Could always
Terry,
go down, right?
Well,
Jeff,
Yeah.
Right.
can't surely guarantee
Yeah. Right.
they don't understand down.
Right.
after you get the structure, like the steel and the structure in place, like installing the windows, finishing the interior, those things can Dakota Drive be open at that point then? Is there a point before the Skyways actually open that we can start to utilize Dakota Drive?
Yes, but it'll be once we get to interior. So we'll get the steel structure in place. The framing has to go on from the outside. The metal panels will go on from the outside. All the glass will go on from the outside. The decking will have to go through the entirety of the Skyway, and then they would, like, it's a concrete floor. So we have a column that sits right at the main entrance right now, so that would be a big enclosure as well, where we get that foundation and that column in. The ramp down to level 2, they would just pour that concrete in one shot. It's those type of efficiencies that are beneficial when you can shut down the entirety of it versus going north-south, moving barriers essentially for each scope of work, and then cutting that concrete poured into 3 instead of 1. It's just those are the things that are cutting down. I have a dog in the fight, obviously, because we're the ones building it. But whatever you guys want to do, right now we do not have shutting down the entirety of Dakota Drive in our schedule. Right now we planned north-south, taking a little bit longer. All that's built into the schedule right now. This was just a thought that once we have the parking ramp open, we can send traffic all through level 1, shut down all Dakota Drive while we're doing the exterior work where there's the possibility to drop things and streamline that and shave some time off the schedule.
What's it going to look like? I mean, we're going to be pulling traffic into the ramp. We'll have people going in there to park, to drop off, and to drive through. I mean, you're going to have people going in quite a few different directions. What's that going to look like?
Right. So the first floor is kind of isolated, and that's going to be the drop off and pickup area. The speed ramp in the southeast corner only, that's where you would go in to park. You can't have access to the first floor from the speed ramp.
Yeah.
So
if
you miss separating the
if
parking.
you miss it coming in, you're going to be going all the way around. You're going to have people stopping to let people off. I mean, I understand that it's not ideal in there, but it really concerns me with everything that's got to happen in there.
Well, and I appreciate you coming up with another idea. So don't take this wrong. I mean,
Can't
our
hurt my feelings.
original plan is to keep Dakota Drive open. You're switching the lanes, and they would be like normal, just be a little more crowded there. So
Correct.
this is like an alternative that you're bringing before. So I commend you for bringing that forward. So I guess the question would be, how long would we need that closed? I mean, if this project's going to take 6 months to complete, do we need to close?
That's the duration of the closure, August to February.
So we'd have to keep it closed for that whole period.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we'd be doing interiors after that once it's reopened. still working on the Skyway.
So the Skyway's not done February 1. Dakota Drive is just open.
Correct.
So when is the Skyway done?
I'd have to relook at the schedule, but I believe that brought it to July with closing Dakota Drive.
So we're really missing that whole winter season. Either way.
Another winter.
Yeah, I mean, either way.
Of not having it open?
Right.
Correct.
So whether we just kept Dakota Drive open or whether we did this, it's still going to be almost a year construction for the Skyway.
Yes.
Okay, so this was the review of the alternate traffic plan. Do we need a decision on this for you, Jeff, or Brandon, or Joe?
I would say yes. So,
This is the plan.
So what's the cost savings with doing it this way? I guess everyone's been talking about costs all over the board. What's the,
We don't have very much general, we don't really have any general conditions, which would be the cost savings. So right now the Skyway is pretty much just cost of work. We're already here on site, so I guess that's one of the benefits to you guys having us do the ramp and the terminal. So we don't really have any conditions, general conditions built into the Skyway GMP. If this is approved, then I can certainly go back to subcontractors and say, you're getting the whole thing now. I just don't have that number right now.
so, but we've got A and B. Is there a difference in cost between A and B?
Theoretically, there would be. I don't have it from the subcontractors. There wouldn't be any savings from McGough because the general condition, like the items you save when you shave down a schedule are the cost of us not being here. Those costs are not incorporated into the Skyway GMB because we're already here and working on the terminal. So there'd be no cost savings from a McGough standpoint because there's no general conditions in the GMP. I could ask for cost savings from the subcontractors saying the steel guy's now getting the whole thing. He's not having to. I don't have that number.
So there's not necessarily a cost savings one way or the other in these options that we know of.
Correct.
My only concern is, you know, just the flow of people. Everyone's used to going through, dropping off, you know, in the front of the terminal. And I think kind of changing that will create a different flow for people. And I mean, that's kind of my concern. That's why I would appreciate SP's input in this, but
along those lines is, you know, the way I look at it is like the flow would be the same in theory. You know, it's just that the drop off pickup lane is a couple 100 feet south. You know, the other part of this is, you know, when you're building it north, you know, two pieces, north half, south half, we keep having to flip flop between the two and move barricades, adjust traffic control. That inherently injects confusion with people that, you know, say this month they're, you know, using these lanes, the next month they're using these lanes, you know, so this will take that away.
I think this flow will be better for people.
Say that again?
The flow for.
I think this will be,
passengers.
this flow will be better for people, yes, or this setup would.
This is the safest for the
Correct.
passengers. This is the safest plan that you'll have right here.
Correct.
Plus it'll be inside and it's faster.
That's a good point.
Or to put it another way, this will actually be closer to the current status than doing the flip flop would.
Correct. Correct. Yes, absolutely it will. So.
To your point, right?
What did you say?
This will mimic the current traffic pattern better than flip flopping lanes.
Yeah, the lane is just a couple 100 feet south is all, so.
One thing I like about this plan is it gets everybody into the parking garage so they can experience how nice it is. It's a great way to expose everybody to our new parking ramp.
Are you looking for a motion?
Is there a motion?
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Shawnee?
Yes.
Bird?
Aye.
Osgood?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Joe.
Sorry, I spelled it.
Yeah, you're not. Dustin, come on up. I'll do this, Darren will load the presentation for you. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next two items in
Okay, Dustin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Dustin Shenaha with Skydyne, your food service partner here at the Hector International Airport. I have just a brief slide here on the food and beverage concepts, and you can go ahead to the next slide there. This is just a brief overview or brief of all the different pre-security and post-security and some of the brands that we're going to incorporate there. As you can see, there's some crossover with Grab and Go. Those are obviously available in multiple areas, along with coffee and Cinnabon in a couple different areas. And then we have 2 other concepts there as well. And I'll get more into those as we go into the next slide. So some of our vision here was, of course, provide some fresh, new, and exciting brands. Making sure we encompass all the day parts, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with the size that we have, the footprints, and the square footage. It's important that all the brands are able to be well utilized for all 3 day parts, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Of course, quick quality service and offerings. We have a goal for some ACDB partnerships, and we're currently working with one of those now. It's been a little bit slow, and they haven't been very responsive. So we kind of, but we're still working with them. We're trying to get something done with them. I'll touch on that a little bit more in the next couple slides. But again, all of our stuff here aligns with ICF's recommendations and folks at Mead and Hunt with Brandon, and of course, and all their space allocations that was set forth by ICF and their recommendations. Next slide. So this is the pre-security. As you can see, the area in the blue. Outside of the area in the blue to the right, there's some additional seating that's more of, I call it flex seating. That's all your passengers and greeters and such. That falls kind of outside of our immediate area, but the area in the blue is the immediate service area. With on the right hand side is the service area, and on the left hand side is the back of the house or the production area with the walk-in coolers and freezers and some small offices and such. So,
Dustin, how many seats is that pre-security?
Pre-security, Brandon's on there. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seats plus some lounge seating. It looks like. So, I think
45, probably 50, 60.
Yeah. And again, a lot of that's flex seating, so it's your greeters and meters and greeters that are right outside your exit doors, your exit lane there on the right hand side. And again, that's a lot of the items in this concept are items that are utilized in the other brands, and this is kind of a catch-all. We have a lot of the favorites from all the different brands, mostly in post-security, that we also offer here. So again, you'll see the coffee and the Grab and Go and the Cinnabon and the Hector's Kitchen logo. And I'm working with my IT and our marketing team there to redesign the Hector's Kitchen logo. It's a little too Southwest looking for me right now, so we'll be working on that, probably changing that slightly, but we'll come up with some different ideas there. Next slide there. Again, this is a pre-security. Like I said, it's more of a lot of the favorites from all the different brands on the other side, on post-security. But again, quick ticket times, hang out before and after flights, meet up with local friends and family. More of a catch-all for all the different folks that are waiting for other travelers to come through. So, and then the next slide will a little bit more detail on the coffee side of it. In the same area, we'll have a full coffee program. Again, it'll be one of our 2. We're working with 2 local Fargo coffee options. One's an ACDB vendor, the other one is not. Prefer the ACDB vendor, but we're having kind of a hard time with them communicating and responding. And so we're still working through that. We still have a lot of hope for that. If not, we'll obviously be working with our other vendor as well. And what we're doing there is we're bringing their local coffee programs to the airport here. So there are two coffee programs that you'd be familiar with in Fargo.
Listen, on your ACDB, are you having trouble with them because they don't have the capability or the understanding? Could you get them some assistance?
More communication.
Yeah, you know, the Small Business Administration or SBDC can provide assistance to them to help.
They're pretty sophisticated. They got a couple locations in town here, and they're just out of town more, and they hand it off to their attorney, and the attorney takes 30 days to get back to you. And
there are programs.
Yes.
Damn attorneys.
Yeah, so
might want to.
Again, we're very hopeful for the ACDB vendor. We know that's a goal for the airport.
Okay.
So those are important. That's an important aspect of this for us. But we have alternative options if that doesn't work out the way we want it to. So other things here, Cinnabon, prepackaged option. Obviously, the hot Cinnabon we're proposing over in the post-security side. I'll get to that in a minute. But on this side, we'd have the packaged option where they can get the 2-packs and 4-packs and the little ones all to go and packaged up and ready to go. So, and then of course, hot food offerings, and then a selection of grab and go offerings as well. A lot of the same things that you might see on the other side. And go ahead to the next one.
Before you go on, who are your customers on the pre-security?
Pre-security?
Yeah. What is your target market?
It's a lot of the folks that most of the market is going obviously to the others, to the post-security side. That's where the 90% of our sales, or at least 80% of the sales, probably will end up. But a lot of it's the meeters and greeters that get here early, or the folks that maybe are traveling from a long distance in, and they get here ultra early for their flight, and they don't want to quite go to the other side quite yet. Or they're here to meet other folks to catch up before they part ways.
Employees in the building.
Employees in the building is important. Yep, staff that obviously don't go to the post security side, don't have access to post security side. The car rental folks, for example, and those in maintenance and other folks. But yes, that'd be the most of it. But again, 80% of it is of the sales are on post security side. So this
just to follow up on Rick's question, what is the seating inside security, post security?
Inside post security?
Right.
Brandon's on, he could help me with that, but we're getting up to 100 or so or more.
I was just based on Rick's question, and our consultants had said it was like a 70-30 or a 75-25, like less seating is necessary outside of security. So,
right. Yeah, we've been trying to hit that target all along, Paula, and so yeah, as you can see with the and the way we have this laid out, the planned east wall of the restaurant, as this grows, there's opportunities to expand that area, the restaurant area as well, to expand seating. Right now, we'll have seating within the restaurant, and then soft seating just outside for people that are taking their meals to go.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's very right.
Just want to make sure that we're following.
Where's your licensed liquor?
That'd be the pink area at the top.
Okay, so is that 21 and up then, or?
That's where the beverage areas have to remain in that area.
Right. But can you serve under 21?
I believe so. I have to double check on that. But I believe so, all the way up to that area for sure. I can sit outside of that area. Obviously, can't sit at the bar.
If you're serving food in that area, then you would be able to serve families as well.
Typically, just not at the bar. We wouldn't have any.
Right. I don't think there's any condition where kids under 21 can sit at the bar. They're not supposed to.
No, I'm just looking at the tables in the licensed liquor
Yeah.
establishment. That,
And I
Yeah,
think,
that would be family seating, wouldn't it, Dustin?
right, and like the round table you see up in the right-hand corner, that would have seats around it, of course. And I think there's maybe some opportunity to put some more additional tables and chairs in there once we get the space.
Right. Yeah. The seating layout you're seeing is something we put in there just to give some spatial reference, but the folks as we develop now that we have the Salty Bison in there, we can work through a more comprehensive plan and how they want to lay that out. They're going to be providing that furniture.
and Dustin, are you looking at now different peak times that we're seeing in food service and trying to accommodate those? I mean, right now it seems like the larger mainline flights, everything's overrun and overcrowded. Is this set up to deal with that?
Obviously, a high morning, a number of flights in the mornings and early times of the day, and although it's that whole area will have a breakfast concept to it. I'll get to the menus in a minute, a couple more slides, but they'll have a full breakfast concept to help with that. So we will certainly use every square inch of the space that we're allocated. I would take that whole other queuing area for the other jet bridge that's there, but I'm sure that was out of the cards. So, but yeah, I would take every square foot that I could, but within what we have here, it's certainly 10 times what we have now, and as far as accommodations and selection and concepts and even seating, and go forward. If there's
Well, I think now it's the Allegiant flights to sort of vacation destinations, Las Vegas, Nashville. You can't get near the bar. You can't get in the restaurant. It's crowded. And is this going to be able to handle that now? What's the capacity we're looking at with an Allegiant? A couple hundred people.
Mr. Cosgrove, yeah, I can speak to that. So the ICF consultant that worked through this laid out a capacity or number of people that would be ideal based on the demand forecast of the airport throughout the season. So this was right-sized during design through their experience in like these size airports, and the type of passengers that you have, coupled with the demand forecast. So right now it's laid out to handle through the 20 years and have the capacity to grow, and that's what the partition to the right is.
Say that again, Brandon. The
partition to the right, you kind of see those. It's the right side of that pink area. They're the salmon area. Yep. Yeah. So that wall, we're not going to have plumbing or anything in there, so that in the future that can be moved to expand the restaurant if it needs the space.
Well, and maybe Dustin, you can help me with this, but the operations. The other thing is that oftentimes when you go to the bar and restaurant now, there's one employee, and that backs up all sorts of customers. And so maybe we have the physical facility, but what type of control do we have with the operation? I mean, I don't want to get in and try to operate these things, but when you see one employee at the bar trying to serve drinks, check IDs and then keep people in the
Should certainly be more than one person in the area.
that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, well, we'll address that. That shouldn't be the case, but we'll certainly staff this fully staffed. Obviously, that's what we do. That's our obviously our focus is obviously getting as much sales and maximizing sales, and in order to do that, you got to have the people there.
So I think we also have a lot of questions
Sure.
about it because food service is so important. Why don't you finish your presentation, and then at the end we can all have an opportunity to discuss.
Perfect. Yeah, so again, full security of the area in the pink there is the Salty Bison Tavern, a play on the bison theme, of course. The bottom side of the area in the purple and the blue, it's more of the quick serve area with the sandwich company and the Cinnabon grab and go. Also a coffee area in there as well. Drip coffee, I should say. And then in the center page there with the dotted lines around it, that's the coffee program right when you come out of TSA, right when you get out with the composure area. That'll be a separately branded coffee concept. I'll get more into that in the next page. When it comes up. Okay, Salty Bison, of course, full service bar, made to order food items. We'll have a kiosk up towards the front of the concept, up towards the walking corridor for kiosk orders, basically electronic orders that can be picked up at a pickup area. And then the next page should be the menu. Just a sample of the menu here. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And these will obviously continue to expand as we go on and on. Initially starting off, we want to obviously walk before we run, but that's a pretty good selection to start off with. And then we obviously add LTOs, limited time offers, and seasonal items to that as we progress. Next slide is the Cinnabon. That's the areas in the blue there. So the production area is the bigger blue square at the top, and the display area is a smaller blue square at the bottom towards the cashier area. And the display area is really is what the customer typically sees. That's the kind of what you're looking at in the middle of the page there, with the hot rolls on the hot warming plate. And then the bigger area, the blue area there, is just the production area. We offer, in that area, we offer a number of different of items, everything from cookies and donut holes to the big cinnamon rolls, the smaller cinnamon rolls, to the center of the roll, which is the one in the cup in the middle of the screen. So, and that's Cinnabon. Provides a different, kind of a unique option. It gives a little bit of a national franchise for one of the concepts, and it's just kind of a great filler piece for different day parts, and the kids love them, of course, and adults too. And then Sammy's Sandwich Company. This will be a quick service sandwich company. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're going to feature breads from Great Smith and Bapa's Bagels and Great Harvest, and so this is obviously focused to be a quick serve sandwich program, and also in that we'll also have soups and salads, and also drip coffee, regular and decaf drip coffee. So, and we'll just sample a menu of that coming up. So different item sandwiches, pizzas, different bowls, burritos. That's all for the breakfast items there, and then different sandwiches and calzones and pizzas and soups and chili and your typical sandwich fare. You would see at a quick serve sandwich program. And along with that, we'd certainly also have in that same area we have all the grab and go, the selection of grab and go. Bottle pop, energy drinks, all those things, fruit cups, cheese cups, and so on. Again, this is the coffee program that would come right out of the composure area. So when they're putting their shoes on and getting dressed, putting their stuff back on, they'd be pretty much looking right at this area. And again, they wanted to keep it low profile, so when you're looking at it, you can see all the way out through the windows. That was kind of a design, one of the design criterias that we were challenged with, and so you can see that's kind of why everything is where it is, and so they could maintain the visibility through the windows from the composure area and not have it be too intrusive. But again, we'll have a local coffee partner there, along with all the grab and go and Cinnabon selections, and then your typical sandwich that you would see like at a Starbucks or scooters with different wraps and such that would be toasted in the toasting ovens on the back counter. So that's those are pretty much the concepts. Glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Burke.
Just the structure. So you master lease all this space, and then you go out and sublease it. Is that how this works?
No, we have a lease with you here, of course, and we do all the food service and we do it all ourselves. But to bring up a local flavor, we'll go out and we'll find like the ACDB coffee program. So hopefully like a women-owned or minority-owned coffee vendor that's already doing business in town, and bring their concept out here. What we'll do is we'll license it from them directly. And so we'll give them a percentage of sales.
But they're working through you.
Right.
You control all these vendors.
We operate it. Yeah. Right. We operate it and do it. We just kind of like how we operate Subway now. They act like a franchisee, like a franchise, and we're like a franchisee. So
you manage those franchisees.
Yeah.
Will you step just a little closer? We want to make sure you can.
Sure. That's the update. If not, you can move on to the next item. There's really nothing to approve. It's just here's where we're at with the concepts that you see there.
So my question was, are you going to be implementing any of the apps that are specifically created for airport passengers to order food and have it delivered to their gate or a pickup location, like at your gate, Grab or Servy?
Correct. We have QR codes, which are obviously pretty popular. They can access those, or they can access a link through the website at the airport here, airport's website, or through a sandwich company website, or through our website, or they can see it maybe on a sign, ticketing, when they come through ticketing. Before they even come up, they can place an order and have it ready to go out on post security side. We could have QR codes on the tables, or even throughout the post security side, the terminal side. QR codes, a sign or on the table. A lot of ways of doing it. They can scan it and pay from their phone. We'll have, like I said before, in the front, we'll have a kiosk for the Salty Bison, where they can just order right there. If they don't want to use their phone, they can go up to it. Looks like a small little ATM, but much thinner and prettier, I guess. And they can place an order on there, and then they just pick it up at the pickup area.
Okay. Is that going to be able to be implemented during our construction phase when we'll have less food and beverage options for our passengers?
We probably could do something there. Yeah, we're going to be very limited, obviously, starting off to producing down in the lower tug course areas where our production is going to be. And then we're going to have pre-cooked burgers and pre-cooked chicken sandwiches and things like that, because we have no cooking platform up here. And so we'll be prepping those down there, bringing them up in bulk and kind of just packaging them and doing the final assembly out here kind of by where the elevator is now. And so it won't be ideal, but we can certainly add a handful of items and try to make it as efficient as we can. The hard part would be to getting them onto the post-security side. We can certainly do that if they want to eat it on the pre-security side. That's easy. Getting that product over to the post-security side might be a little bit more of a challenge, but where there's a will, there's a way. We can certainly try. So.
Okay. I mean, it might help your food sales
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be tight. It's gonna be thin, especially with staffing. And for the next 2 years, we're kind of working out of a closet down there, and not necessarily staff, but more production wise, producing it down there and bringing it upstairs to service.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Dustin, the alcoholic beverages are always a problem. but have you looked at alternatives? Because somewhat, the airport's somewhat like a stadium. And there are stadium liquor licenses. There are options that are available. Have you explored any of those?
I haven't yet, but at our last meeting a few months ago, we talked about that. And it's on my agenda, just trying to,
I'm just wondering if that would change any of the layout if you do have the option to move, food and beverages to the gate areas or kind of spread out. I mean, if you see what's happening in stadiums, people are going to get food and bring it back. But, you can disperse and actually have more room.
Yeah, the problem with the alcohol is the local ordinances of removing it from that seating area.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that there are liquor licenses that have been created to deal with that. And
I have Steve Sprague's number from the city and a few others there that are on my list to contact.
Well, we do partner with the city too, so
right.
there were a need for a specific change to a liquor license. We can certainly ask for it so that we don't build to constraints that we don't necessarily have.
And Dustin, I've done a lot of background work with Steve on this issue, so I can certainly circle back with you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that a lot of airports around the country do offer the option. You just put it in a plastic cup that would be a certain color that would indicate to the gate agents that there's an alcoholic beverage in that cup, and so then that helps ensure that it doesn't get onto the plane, which would be the initial concern. But I know many airports around the country have this option, and it would alleviate the space constraints that we have in the restaurant bar in the Salty Bison. What is the occupancy of that?
Brandon, what is it, 110, if I remember right?
Oh gosh, yeah, I would have to go back and look. I don't want to misspeak.
And I do see that other airports that sell a special solo cup, like an orange one, and maybe it's printed on there. It must be 21 all the way around it. It's very identifiable, and it can't be sealed like a bottle of beer or something. Put a cap back on it and sneak it around the airplane where it's a wide open cup where they can't really hide it. And I see that in other airports where they're allowed to walk through the terminal with those, but it's a very identifiable cup, but that's obviously quite a project to work with the city to try to get that approved and going through the ordinance. And
well, like I said, they've worked through a lot of it with the baseball stadium, with the Fargo Dome. There are partners too. So I mean, if there's something that helps us so we don't have excess capacity most of the time, and then limited capacity at certain times, kind of the nature of the beast.
We are set up with the south side of the bar is kind of a service area there, and so we could do like a walk-up area where you could walk up and get. And if it does become available where they're able to grab something and go into the terminal with it, it's pretty convenient now where they could walk up and then.
Well, and if you have a concept that you'd like, we certainly could open up the discussions with the Liquor Control Committee. To see if it's a possibility, but it has been modified in quite a few. I mean, hell, they've got a liquor license for people bringing their own liquor into a parking lot and drinking. So, maybe that'd be fun in the ramp.
Well, can you clarify briefly, as you generate revenue, is the airport gets a percentage? So the more you sell.
Exactly. We give a percentage to the airport. I don't have the exact number. I think it's there's a rate for liquor. There's a rate for food, other food and beverages, non-liquor, and I think it's 14 and 12 or
10 and 14.
10 and 14. Okay. So yeah, those are pretty typical. Most airports do it. They have a different rate for both.
Okay. Yeah. So when you generate revenue, we generate revenue.
Absolutely. Yes. So yeah.
I have one comment. I've told you this before on the Cinnabon. I'm concerned about the sticky nature. I know that you also do Auntie Anne's on your
Yeah, that's-
website, and
yep.
it's a less sticky option for our airport staff for cleaning.
Yeah, I have 3 Cinnabons currently, and I haven't had any issues. And I've had one for 5 years, one for 4 years, one for 3 years, so collectively 12 years. I haven't had one issue with a maintenance person or airport admin say, hey, it's really, you're always going to have an occasional spill. Somebody's going to drop one on the floor, or just like a cup of coffee, or just like anything else, they're going to drop. But pretty rare. I honestly, I haven't had one. But so.
Well, I'm glad we've got multiple choices.
Yeah.
Because as a mom, I don't like the Cinnabons with little kids. It's a.
It's no different than the compromise that those are selling right now, so it's already have it. It's not an issue.
And the frosting is the best part. No one wants to waste that. Yeah, the kids like that right off the top. Probably the first thing.
The only thing that I'm concerned about with what Mr. Cosgrove was talking about is being able to take alcoholic beverages wherever. Then you're opening up the opportunity for underage people to get fed liquor by somebody. I don't think I'd be for that.
Well, that's where they worked at it with the stadium license. The same type of thing.
Part of, just my opinion, but part of the onus of the person buying it. I'm 21. If I give it to a minor, it doesn't look good for me either. As being 21, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, that's a pretty serious charge as well. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I understand that.
No, and that's like I said. This is just trying to maximize capacity.
Right.
There are several other airports in North Dakota that currently offer that option as well.
That's what I understand. Yes. So it's not a state law thing; it's just a local ordinance.
Right.
So.
Okay. Is there a motion to receive and approve to receive and approve the food and beverage plans?
So moved. Are we amending something?
So that's the next one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think Dustin was just kind of letting us know.
Okay, second.
Is there a second? Okay. Roll call.
Rashani?
Yes.
Bird?
Aye.
Cosgrove?
Aye.
Navitian?
Aye.
Aye. The next item is to approve the amendment to the food and beverage lease agreement with Skydyne. Would you like to go through that, Dustin?
Yes, I'll certainly talk it through. I believe you have in the packet. Is that right, or was last time? So about a year ago, or sometime in 2024, we were challenged by the board, by Sean, to see how we could contribute financially to the construction project here when there was some funding questions like a year ago that were pretty serious with the city and such. And so we came back with a proposal to add 10 years to our lease. And for that, we were going to contribute, I want to make sure I get this right, I think it's $1,080,000 for that 10-year lease. And that could be used towards construction of food service, food and beverage operations, and equipment and furniture, all those things that go in those areas. Or whatever the airport would want to use it for. We were just, I think in the agreement, there's a different payment plans where every quarter we pay $250,000 through that year up until we get ready to open. So we just make those payments to the airport as it's stated in there, and it's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. Glad to answer any questions you might have on that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cosgrove.
Stacy, we're doing 10-year extensions here on existing contracts. What's our requirement on RFP? When should we be looking at RFP? 10-year extension seems
I don't think there's any hard and fast rule, and I think this was sort of a hybrid with the construction of the terminal and what was gonna happen with the already existing, so I don't think there's a hard and fast rule for when we have to do it.
Okay, when should we do it then? I mean,
That's
a
up to the
10-year
board.
extension seems, sort of limiting competition for quite a while there.
I think that was agreed to because of the amount of the investment and the changes that are.
Well, no, I understand all that. It's just, at some point, we've kind of worked around our own requirements. And, you know, if this were a 20-year extension, would that be too much?
I think that would be up to the board.
Yeah, okay.
Madam Chairman, you tell me,
Yes.
so either party can terminate this lease? Is that, you have a termination clause in here?
There is, and all we did simply, and I don't have it in front of me. It's been a hot minute since I read it, but from what I understand, there's an amortization table in there as well. So if
Which
something were to
makes
happen,
sense. Yep.
you guys kick us out for some reason, you know, there's the unamortized amount.
Right.
So-
I just didn't understand what the termination clause was, so you can maybe explain that, Stacy.
Well, so I think Dustin just did. I mean, if there's a reason, and I don't have the original lease in front of me, and that's where that would be set forth, is that if there's this just decision to be made to terminate, then whatever is owing under that schedule would be paid.
I understand that. I guess my
There's no
question is,
for cause.
what's the, what cost, I mean, is it just kind of for any reason, or what, under what circumstances?
The board wakes up one morning and decides.
Yeah, I apologize, I don't have the original one in front of me. But both parties have termination rights.
You know what those are, Dustin, or?
I don't, I'm sure there's some
Each lease
clause
is
secure language in there, I'm sure.
I apologize.
By 30 days, if something, you know,
Sure.
something happens and I can't.
Yeah,
fix it.
well, I think that keeps things
Absolutely.
good relationship, but
Yeah, it's good for both parties and, you know.
yeah, some have a high standard, some are just, if either party wants to terminate, they can.
If I recall, it's it's a cure, 30-day period kind of thing. If we have a problem, if the board has a problem, you have so much time to fix the problem.
Pause cure, 30 days is typical.
I do have a question for you. So Hector's is gonna be a full service restaurant outside of security?
No, it's more of a quick concept, pre-security, yeah.
Okay.
Pre-security area.
Okay. Because I know some of the full service restaurants even here with Marlin's, it's just not that busy outside of security, and yet people are clamoring for food service inside security.
Right.
And so to make that equipment investment outside pre-security may or may not be.
Yeah, we'll and a lot of that equipment and stuff in the pre-security, a lot of that support for post-security in the back of the house, you know, the production area, a lot of that support for the other side as well. So it's not all, it's in pre-security, but a lot of it in pre-security is still used for production. It's like, you know, the kitchen isn't huge over there, so we'll utilize that back kitchen pre-security here.
Okay.
For, you know, making all the fruit cups and all those things, a lot of things.
Okay, just thinking about the equipment costs. And then, can I, go ahead.
No, I would just move that we approve this amendment subject to review of the termination clause. We don't have to do that now.
Yep, I can
Second.
introduce that.
Let's take our time on it, Stacy.
Certainly.
If you
Discussion.
let me say one more thing. One of the concerns I hear pretty consistently from our passengers is that there's no coffee available before those 2 early morning flights.
Right, so it's 3 points.
So can you ensure that that will be staffed?
Absolutely.
Also, when you get inside to the Salty Bison, there'll be plates and glassware.
Yes.
Okay, and then as far as the alcohol, that could always be a trial period. We could see how it worked. And if it didn't work or was a problem, then you can walk it back.
Right.
So that's another thought when we consider different alternatives to provide service.
The special license.
Right, right. Okay, that's all I have. We have a first, do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Roll call,
Just
or excuse me, any more discussion?
Just one question is.
Well, the motion is
This
subject to us reviewing that.
Approving the out.
Termination clause.
Yeah, it should be pretty much one side wants out.
Yep.
Do that without.
Roll call,
Yes.
Aye.
All right.
aye.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your partnership. And, we'll do
Next
exactly-
time, bring Cinnabons when you start your presentation.
Right?
do that. Absolutely. So,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
making the drive up here this morning, Dustin. Number 9, continued discussion regarding passenger leakage study, Michael Lum, and he is online.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Hey, no worries, no worries. I've got all day. Thank you for having me. As you know, we recently completed a new leakage study using data from year-end second quarter 2024. So what that means is it included data from third quarter of 2023 up through second quarter of 2024, so through June of last year. And the reason there's such a lag is because we're dependent on data from the U.S. Department of Transportation, and that data typically lags from the current month from the current quarter by about 1 or 2 quarters, depending on where we are within a given quarter. So this data will be through June of 2024, and I will share my screen. Let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's just dive into it. So what we do when we do a leakage study is we use zip code data, and we obtain sample. There's an organization called the Airlines Reporting Corporation where we get our data. And the Airlines Reporting Corporation acts as a clearinghouse for most of the large airlines, where if a ticket is sold by one airline, but somebody flies on another airline, that data goes, or that ticket actually is processed by what we call ARC, and ARC gathers that data, sells the data. They currently have estimated that they process about 7.5% of the tickets sold in the United States. So we adjust for that 7.5% sample size, and we also do some adjustments for airlines like Allegiant, Frontier, Spirit, and Sun Country that don't clear their tickets through ARC. But what we found in the leakage study is our demand in the catchment area, so in those 175 zip codes, increased since the last leakage study by 6.6%, from about 2013 tickets per day each way to about 2,146 tickets per day each way. So in the year-end second quarter of 2024, we had demand in our catchment area, regardless of airport used, for about 1,910 domestic passengers per day each way and about 237 international passengers per day each way. And you can see the domestic demand increased at a little bit of a faster rate than the international demand increased versus the previous study. At Fargo, our traffic was about 1,429 passengers per day each way versus 1,339 passengers per day each way. So our traffic through June of 2024 increased about 6.6% at Fargo versus the previous study where we were generating 1,339 passengers per day each way. So the good news is demand was up, but when we looked at the percentage of traffic in the catchment area that we capture at Fargo, it was essentially flat. It was down by 1/10 of a percentage point to 66.2%. So in that catchment area, we captured at Fargo about 66.2% of the demand versus 66.3% in the previous study. Minneapolis captured about 31.9% of the traffic generated in the catchment area. And you can see the other airports, Bismarck, Sioux Falls, Grand Forks, Jamestown, and Minot each captured less than 1% of the traffic. So our big competitor here, as you would expect, is the airport in Minneapolis-St. Paul. And the primary reason we're leaking traffic to Minneapolis-St. Paul is first, it's a Delta hub. So there are over 100 destinations served from Minneapolis-St. Paul. It's a relatively competitive market with most of the low-cost and ultra-low-cost carriers serving Minneapolis-St. Paul. So, of course, we've got Sun Country at Minneapolis-St. Paul, Frontier, Spirit, Southwest, virtually all of the low-cost and ultra-low-cost carriers. So it's a relatively competitive market. So fares can tend to be lower in Minneapolis-St. Paul than they are at Fargo. So we're leaking traffic because the destinations and fares tend to be lower at Minneapolis-St. Paul. If we take a look at just the Fargo metro area, so the zip codes close into the airport in Fargo, and there are 6 of them that make up Fargo, West Fargo, and Moorhead. The rate at which we capture traffic is much greater. We're capturing about 79.2% of the traffic in these 6 zip codes tightly clustered around the airport. We're only leaking about 19% of the traffic to Minneapolis-St. Paul. So the proximity of these zip codes to Fargo helps us retain traffic at the airport. And then if we take a look at the individual numbers in terms of passengers per day each way and divide passengers per day each way into domestic versus international passengers per day each way, you can see Fargo captured about 1,308 domestic passengers per day each way and 120 international passengers per day each way. We were leaking 564 domestic passengers per day each way to Minneapolis and about 112 international passengers per day each way to Minneapolis. So overall, we're leaking about 676 passengers per day each way to Minneapolis. And then you can see the rest of the airports we included in the leakage study we're leaking fairly insignificant amounts of traffic, as I said previously, to those airports in places like Sioux Falls, Bismarck, or Grand Forks. If we take a look at the markets, at our 30 largest markets for the catchment area, and divide that into what we retain at Fargo versus what we leak from Fargo in terms of passengers per day each way, you can see we do a pretty good job of capturing the traffic to places like Phoenix, where we have great service on American and Allegiant, to Denver on Frontier and United. We're only leaking about 11% of the Phoenix traffic, only about 15% of the Denver traffic. And then when we get into markets that where we don't have nonstop service, then the markets, the amount of traffic we leak tends to get greater. Another great example of where we were able to retain most of the traffic is Chicago. We're only leaking about 7% of that traffic. But, in markets like New York, where we don't have a nonstop, we're leaking about 55% of the traffic. But overall, you can say that there is a correlation between the ability to retain traffic versus or relative to whether or not we have a nonstop, and how many seats per day we have in a given market. If we take a look at market share by airline, regardless of airport of origin, you can see that Delta is capturing about 36.5% of the traffic, and that's at both Fargo and Minneapolis. American's capturing about 18% of the traffic. United's capturing about 16% of the traffic, and Allegiant's capturing about 14% of the traffic. We don't have service on Sun Country, and the bus service we had on landline that feeds Sun Country doesn't count here, but Sun Country was capturing about 6.2% of the traffic, and that was that 6.2% of the traffic was drive traffic to Minneapolis, where they drove in their personal automobiles. Any questions so far regarding the leakage? What I'll take you through next is some of our DOT data through the third quarter of 2024, just to show you how our capacity, traffic, and fares are trending. So any questions regarding the leakage?
Yeah, I have one question. That the catchment area, how do we pick that? I mean,
well, it's a bit of an art. What we do is we take a look at where of the zip codes we think we could logically capture traffic from that don't encroach on other airports. So you see, we don't encroach or include Grand Forks within our capture area, although we get pretty close to Grand Forks, and we don't go too far east or west. Simply because those zip codes are not going to add a lot of population to the catchment area. And then towards the south, we don't go too close to Sioux Falls.
So that's more of an art, just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, yeah, okay. 'Cause I was just wondering about Grand Forks, because I would think Grand Forks would have some leakage to Fargo, and Fargo would have some leakage to Grand Forks.
Yeah, in all honesty, well, we're a net benefit. We have a net benefit for traffic in Grand Forks. Grand Forks doesn't have a whole lot of airline service, so they leak much more traffic to us than we leak to them.
No. Okay. Yeah, and so I was just trying to figure out why that's that way. The other question I had was
we did a study last year where we had a much larger catchment area, and with a much larger catchment area, of course, the amount of traffic we retain is going to go down, and it did. So we reined in the catchment area to make it look, I guess you could say, much more practical and logical.
Okay, well, maybe you could talk with Greg with SB Plus, and he can tell you where the reservations are coming from on the parking, and see if we match up.
Okay.
The other one, on that last table, you had Minneapolis. Yeah, that back one now, just back one. I was just trying to figure out forward. Right here, Minneapolis, St. Paul's a destination there on the left. I was trying to figure that out. That we're leaking.
Yeah, well, we're leaking 12% of that, and that may be leaking to Sioux Falls. It might be some of those southern zip codes.
Okay, so somebody from towards Sioux Falls is flying to Minneapolis?
From Sioux Falls.
From Sioux Falls. Okay, yeah, it just didn't make sense to me there, that 29.5 and the 12.
Mr. Burke?
So, Michael, here's kind of just probably could wait till the end and ask you this question, but I just kind of want to plant the seed. Kind of what my interest is how do we change the leakage? So we've kind of instructed our marketing people that, hey, this is low-hanging fruit. We want to go after target marketing for some of these areas. Then I think the other side of it is what's our airline capacity? to some of these cities? And do we need to increase our capacity to go to some of these cities? So, it's kind of like the frustration is, maybe we need to define that catchment area, much smaller than we have. But I think what my goal is how can we use this data to target our marketing to improve the percentage of people that are flying out of Hector Airport?
I think the best way to target the marketing is to go after the zip codes with the largest population. So it would be these 6 zip codes. You get the most bang for your buck in your marketing where you're targeting areas that have a lot of that have pretty good population density. And I think it's going to be a lot easier to convince somebody who lives relatively close to the airport to use your airport as opposed to going to Minneapolis, St. Paul. But the other problem we have is our flights in Fargo are relatively full. And, if a flight or if the load factor or the percentage of seats filled is between 85 and 90%, it's going to be tough to fill that last 15% of the seats that are available for sale. Because what happens is as flights fill up, as people book reservations on individual flights, the price goes up. So the last 15% of the available seats are going to be priced much, much higher than the first 30% of the seats were filled. So the way we increase retention at Fargo is both by marketing close into the airport, where you're more likely to persuade somebody to use the airport as opposed to driving to Minneapolis. And we also, more airline capacity would equate to probably a better retention rate at Fargo, because you'll have more seats available for sale, generally at a lower average cost.
So this leakage then for the Fargo-Moorhead area is 20%.
Yes.
Okay.
So just to follow up on that, is there a way we could get more timely, if we narrowed it down to 6 zip codes, would there be a way that we could cost effectively do a sample of that in more real time?
That's going to be tough, unless, maybe we could use something like the advance bookings for parking. We could look at that somehow. The primary problem we have is the DOT data lags real time by 3 to 5 months.
Right. Okay. Oh, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Do we know why the lag is there? Is that just?
Yeah, it's simply because the DOT collects data from airlines, and the airlines are given that amount of time to report.
Okay.
But this industry is unique in that there's virtually no other industry where we get the kind of data, customer data, that we get in the airline industry because of the DOT rules.
Okay, is there any other discussion or questions for Michael Law?
And what I want to do next is take you through a few slides to show you what the recent capacity, traffic and fare trend data looks like, if I could.
Okay, of course.
Okay, so this is data, this is traffic data through third quarter of 2024. And we've got capacity data out through the end of June of 2025. So what I want to point out here is your capacity will increase about 6% in second quarter of 2025 versus second quarter of 2024, from about close to 1,800 seats per day each way to just over 1,900 seats per day each way in that 1 year period. So theoretically, our retention rate at Fargo will go up for the year end second quarter of 2025 as the capacity has trended up. So good there. Then the other thing I want to point out is our fares are trending down. So if we take this chart back, the chart goes back as far as second quarter of 2022, our average domestic fare was $254. In third quarter of 2024, our average domestic fare was $218. So our fares are trending down. And if we take a look at our average domestic fare from the period from third quarter of 2019 through third quarter of 2024 and compare it to the average lower 48 airport, you can see our average domestic fare over this period of time is flat. It was $218 in third quarter of 2019. It's $218 in third quarter of 2024. So over that period of time, our fare has been flat, whereas the average domestic lower 48 fare is up 6.25%. Now in Fargo, we do our average domestic fare is higher than the overall lower 48 airport, but again, our average domestic fare over this 5-year period of time is flat. And then if we take a look at our largest markets generated at the airport without regard to any leakage, you can see Phoenix, Denver, Las Vegas, Orlando, and Chicago are the 5 largest domestic markets in terms of both O&D and passengers per day each way. And the average fare paid in the 30 largest markets was $207. What's interesting about this chart is if you pick out the Allegiant markets where Allegiant has nonstop service, you can see places like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Orlando, Nashville, and Tampa, St. Petersburg have much lower fares than the average. Frontier is in the Denver market at $141. The average Denver fare is $141 where we have Frontier presence. And I believe that is the last slide.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Michael Lump? Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? Okay. Dr. Bashani, I know that you've got some time constraints this morning. I'm wondering if...
Michael, can you stop sharing?
It'd be good to get a copy of that slide presentation if you could email that out.
Could you take care of that? Okay. Dr. Bashani, I know you have some time constraints this morning. Would you like to entertain moving number 11 prior to 10?
Yeah, we can. And if we go longer than need be, I'll probably have to walk out, but Rick knows what we're going to talk about.
Okay. I want to be cognizant of your schedule. Okay.
Go ahead. Okay. We've continued to be working with the consultant on developing what I'd call potential or proposed policy document for the board to consider. A draft, something that's obviously not done until you confirm it, but I don't think you're going to be surprised by anything in it. Fairly standard verbiage, customized to Hector International is what's taken so long. But Rick and I have spent a lot of time with the consultant going through each item by item to make sure it's applicable and appropriate. We do, before we finish that and bring it to you for your consideration, we do have 3 questions that we would like your feedback on. I don't think we need to belabor it with votes and things like that. Just get your general reaction. The first is your willingness to develop short and long-term objectives. We would do that in the future, but is the board willing to collaborate on short and long-term objectives? The second would be, is the board willing to commit to monitoring the objectives? I think both those are probably easy, but I don't want to presume. The third that we would like some feedback from you on is whether to stay with the current continuous evaluation of the executive director or move to an annual evaluation. Again, don't need that to be a decision. I think we're just looking for your feedback as we finish up the document for your consideration. And then I would ask if the answer to if we get feedback on all three, I would ask for you to schedule a workshop for the board sometime in the future with the consultant to present the document, work through the objectives as a group, and ostensibly get to some sort of conclusion of the project.
Okay, so governance committee, are you looking for feedback right now on those three
Yeah, I think that would be good.
items?
Those are probably things we're stuck on. So I think my premise was overall we want our board to function where the board works with the staff. And so kind of what Jeff had laid out was our responsibility is to monitor and evaluate the staff. The staff's job is to carry out the functions that the board wants them to do. And so I think I feel like this process we've put together needs that in order to make it effective. So I think from my perspective, I think we need to say, okay, here are the things that the board, fully understands the role that the staff is doing. We also need to say, here's what the board feels is a priority for the next year, either short or long term, specific goal. And then we kind of stay out of the staff's hair, if you will, but then these are things we monitor as we go on. So I think that's probably the crux of it right now. So
Are you looking for, is the governance committee looking for a vote on these three items individually?
No, I
feedback?
would encourage you not to belabor it with a vote.
Okay.
We'll take your feedback and incorporate it into the final document that you'll be working on in the workshop anyway. So this isn't like to disregard the feedback. And
well, I'll give you mine. That you have to measure, and so we have to set goals. We have to measure goals, and then to performance, we have to have performance. It just 1, 2, 3. If you start with one, all the way through, and so it's set the goals, measure the goals, and then do the performance reviews for that time period. If it's 6 months, if it's a year, whatever, and work from that. That's my.
Jim, what are your thoughts?
I tend to go along with what you guys brought up and what Dr. Schatz is proposing. And the 6-month review, I don't agree with that. But annual, yeah.
What I would say, we don't know that review piece, how that would work, but we'd have to make sure that it's done in an appropriate way. And how about your thoughts, Paula?
First, I'd like to thank our governance committee for all the time and effort that you've put into this. I know this has been a lot of work. I would like to, if I'm weighing in, I would say I'm in favor of all three. I think all three items that you mentioned are positive moves forward. So I support that.
That's probably all we need.
Yeah, and to be honest, we were anticipating just what John said, but we didn't want to presume. And Jim, I'm not surprised by your feedback either. But again, didn't want to speak for anybody.
Okay.
So I think we can take this feedback, work with the consultant. If you could start identifying a date for us to all get together, I don't think we'll have a lot of work to do yet.
I think there's two things. One, we'll just sort this through, but one would be just to block off a couple hours where we say what's important for us for the next 12 months, or however that works.
Okay, keeping in mind that, the quorum email situation, maybe Joan, could you put together a meeting, a survey where people can indicate if they're available or not available on certain days or times?
Work that out. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. And thanks for moving it up.
Absolutely. On to our last item then. Greg, thank you for waiting. We'll get an update from S&P Plus.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again. Just to start out and circle back really quickly, I know we've been talking about zip codes during this meeting. We're happy to assist with providing data. It'll be a smaller sample size than what you just discussed, but we can share zip code data related to visits for the valet operation and also for reservations and so forth. So happy to assist the airport in any way with catching that catchment area and who's flying directly out of your airport. Really quickly, and I'll be sensitive to time and go through this as fast or as slow as you like me to. But this is our biannual transportation study. This covers the winter period. We did the survey on December 19th and December 20th of 2024. And I'll just jump right into it. I'll run it this way, not full screen, just so I can see my audience as well, if that's okay. But if there's anything you can't see, just let me know. So this marks the 12th transportation study that we performed out here at Hector International Airport. Time does fly by, if you will. And so we're happy that we actually hit number 12 here. The sample size that we were able to collect over the 2-day period was 792 respondents. You'll notice here on this slide, one of the differences between the 2 dates that we chose this time was actually a Thursday-Friday combination, which we have not done that in recent times based off this slide that's before you. It's indicative of some of the responses you're going to see and some of the changes you'll see as well. But the biggest thing as well is the number of employments over this 2-day period, which makes sense leading into the holiday period right before Christmas. Lots of leisure travel, lots of seats and so forth, and lots of folks filling up those seats, hence your high load factors, if you will. The one thing we definitely want to improve upon is our penetration, which is the 22% that you see to the right. In studies before this, we typically would at least penetrate about 30 to 40% of the passengers. So we're taking this back.
What does that mean? What does that 22% mean?
That's how many passengers we were able to gauge with over the 2-day period that flew out of the airport.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we want to get that increase, and again, full transparency here. We definitely want to get this trending back in the right direction, but I'll be honest with you, this was one of the highest number of the 2 busiest days that we've done the study in quite some time. And it speaks to your employment data that you're seeing right now, which is the highest you've ever seen, is my understanding from talking to Darren and so forth. So with that said, moving on to the next slide, one of the first questions we always try to figure out is what's the purpose of your trip, business or leisure? No surprise here again, leisure travel is leading the way, and definitely closer to the holiday period, it was even more prevalent than times before when we've done the survey. So we had 84% this time for leisure travel and 16% business. Again, we are clearly out of the pandemic in my mind and most of the industry experts' minds. So I think this is going to be an ongoing trend to where you see a lot of business travel mixed with leisure travel. So I think leisure travel and predominantly business markets is going to continue to lead the way moving forward. And that's definitely indicative here on this slide as well. The next slide, how did you arrive at the airport today? This is key. We really want to kind of see what shifts we've seen since we started the construction of the ramp. And you'll notice, to my surprise, being dropped off actually decreased by 2. A lot of folks decided to plan in advance and use the reservation system. And you'll really start to see that. You started to see it in the January statement, but you really start to see it on the February revenues where we have a noticeable uptick. That's somewhat of a spoiler alert with respects to reservation revenue across the platform here at Hector International Airport. So the biggest shift was with taxis. A lot of folks that decided to start using taxis. and shift their behaviors slightly. I'm not too concerned with that because those are individuals we can definitely pull back once the ramp is completed. So I'm glad to see that the shift was more so on taxis, TNCs, maybe hotel shuttles slightly, but not as much with being dropped off. We found typically if you start to get dropped off more, those are behaviors that's harder to reel back in. But if you're choosing to still pay to get to the airport through a taxi or some other means, we could definitely get your business back post ramp, if you will. And we've really started to see that already once we've opened this overflow lot that I spoke of earlier in the meeting. So glad to see that the increase in parked car from last winter's transportation study actually increased by 4%, and individuals being dropped off only decreased by 2%. Digging a little deeper into where the individuals are actually from and how many of these individuals actually utilize TNCs from a standpoint of local. And again, we're defining local as North Dakota or Minnesota based off proximity to the state line, if you will. So local, there was a slight uptick, 2% increase with local passengers deciding to use TNCs, and then a slight decrease with the non-locals deciding to use TNCs as well, down to 61%. What changed from this survey to the previous one with respects to North Dakota and Minnesota travelers was it increased by 7%. We went from 61 to 68% of individuals being from the general catchment area or the two neighboring states. Additionally, Arizona ranked the highest as a separate state outside of North Dakota and Minnesota with respects to individuals originating or being from the said state. California was ranked the highest on the previous study, if you recall. So Arizona has led the way this time around, and that's just depicted here as well on this pie chart. Montana played a factor, Texas played a factor, and then we just grouped all the other 19% in one general category. And again, I'll be sending this slide deck out after the meeting as well. We usually have a question 4. This time around, we did not. Question 4 is typically the wildcard question. If you recall, in the past, we've asked about, would someone use valet? Would someone support a parking ramp? We asked for zip code data before we were able to start capturing it on our own. So we always typically insert these wildcard questions as number 4. In the spring edition of this transportation study, we will have a question 4, and it'll be mainly targeting and getting ready for the opening of the ramp, just to speak to what we talked about earlier in the meeting, how we're going to make sure we get passengers engaged and kind of know what to expect when the ramp opens and get their general feelings towards their support in advance. And it gives us a chance to educate them on the ramp when it's opening, and then obviously the rate that goes along with it. So that'll be our wildcard question, if you will, moving forward for the spring transportation study. One thing I decided to insert, somewhat related, but kind of not related a little bit really quickly, is the valet retrieval information. I know I had some discussions with the chairwoman regarding valet operation and so forth, and we touched on it a little bit today as well with respects that it has received some really warm reviews, if you will, along the way. So this is data that we're able to track. We continuously track, and we make sure that we measure ourselves against. And I know this is a little difficult to read, so I will take a stab at just showing this to you on a larger screen. And so with that said, one of the things that we really monitor is the retrieval time. And so this is since we launched on August 26th of 2024, we are averaging a 21.1 minutes retrieval time, which is really good when we not only compare it to this location, but compare it to larger locations that we run valet operations. And this is timestamped from the moment the person requests their vehicle, which is typically when they land, because that's what we tell them when they drop their car off. Once you land, let us know that you're here, to the time that the vehicle is actually ready to go, keys in hand, so to speak, for the person to pick up their vehicle. That is pretty good considering the distance of the overflow lot from the terminal front, And then also considering the fact that sometime we do get requests once the passenger's actually in baggage claim. So all in all, over all the transactions we've had since August 26th, that is the average time that we're trending upon. One last thing I just wanted to throw in was our CSAT scores, since this relates to surveys as well. This is something we do proactively as part of the valet experience through our software. We reach out and we ask passengers to give us feedback on their experience. And this is a little difficult to see here as well, but again, it'll be much clearer when I send this out. The overall average score is 4.58%, and this is based off the questions we have emailed. 4 to 5 questions we email out after each visit to anyone that joins the Metropolis platform. So 4.58 out of 5. This is similar to your Yelp reviews, where you go through and you kind of see what restaurant you want to go eat at, and you rank them based off the Yelp scores and the stars they get. And so this is pretty good considering new operation, been in existence for since August, so about 7-8 months. But we're definitely still trying to trend this up as high as we can to the 5.0. But just wanted to share this with you and let you know this is available. We are tracking this. We monitor this. I look at this quite frequently. I make visits down and make sure that the team understands what the expectation is and so forth. And so we definitely want to make sure we deliver the service that the airport expects us to deliver along the way. So happy to answer any questions about the survey or the last 2 slides that I just discussed.
Mr. Cosgrove.
Greg, did I see the shuttle this morning?
You did.
That white child abductor van.
Yeah, since we are leasing it, we didn't want to put too much or a lot on it. But yeah, passengers are aware what its purpose is. We started running it about, I would say, 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Could you put a banner on it or something just so people would start to recognize it? Or
it's fair enough. Yeah, and we have the LED as well at the top, so we need to get the team to start utilizing that. That way they'll know where they're going and what the purpose is.
All right, and thank you for switching now to the new updated logo for the airport in your reports there. We appreciate that.
No, my pleasure.
Greg, what is the so where are the pickup areas for the shuttle? I'm happy to hear that's being implemented. And then also, what is your expected timeline for how long you'll be offering the valet service? Will that be, for instance, until the Skyway is completed?
Right. So the shuttle pickup is right outside of baggage claim. We work with the airport on developing a route to make sure that the shuttle could actually fit in the areas that we asked it to go down and go through. So it leaves there, it goes down through long term, down the middle aisle, and it exits out the main exit plaza. And it stops in front of each economy lots, outside the lots though, just because those are pretty tight turns, particularly on the West Economy side, for that shuttle to navigate and traverse through. So we want to make sure we avoid any potential accidents. But yeah, it leaves the baggage claim area, goes down the middle row, long term exits out, and stops on both sides of the economy lots for drop offs as well. We initially had kind of contemplated it just serving the overflow lot, but we said, look, construction's going on. It's somewhat of an inconvenience to walk around the construction. Let's just service all the available lots and make sure that this is a customer amenity for passengers that fly out of this airport. As far as valet, that's honestly a conversation we'll have to have right at that time. We've really just kind of been monitoring this to see when and what we should do with valet post opening of the ramp. So I don't have exactly an end date right now for you, but it's definitely something that we probably should start the discussions on in the near future, now that we have enough benchmark data.
And how long do you anticipate offering the shuttle service?
The shuttle service will, in my opinion, will probably need to run at least through just before opening of the ramp. But again, we budgeted it that way, but we did start a little late, and that's the only reason I'm saying we can kind of push that back to the summer months, even though I know it'll be walkable. But the biggest thing with that is we're just going to monitor ridership. If the ridership does not support it, then we'll go ahead and pull the plug on it, and that way you're not eating that OpEx cost associated with running a shuttle service. But right now the ridership is pretty good. Obviously, it's it's the winter months, your busiest months, and people are utilizing that overflow lot. But I think the end date for the shuttle service will mainly be once ridership speaks enough to us to say this is no longer needed.
Okay. To John's point, maybe a wrap or something to make it more easily identifiable that it is a service.
Yeah, agreed.
Are you going to be emailing us the survey results?
I am. I'll send this deck out to you. And obviously, I'll send you the surveys that we do for reservations as well. I know we got off track with that. I think the cadence requested was once a month. So I'll send you those as well.
And I'd appreciate, Greg, if it wasn't limited only to the people making reservations, so we get a broader range of feedback from all the passengers that are parking.
Okay. Like just a comprehensive one for
Sure.
transient. Okay.
Is there any more questions or discussion for Greg? Any more discussion?
When will the next survey be?
They do it in the summer, one summer, one.
When will your next survey be, Craig?
We typically do it around April or May, leading into the summer months. The most recent summer one was late May. So we will coordinate that with the team and go from there. Is there a preference on when we do it, or?
No, I just think, one of my thoughts would be, would you be open if we had some questions we'd like to add to the survey that might be valuable for us?
For certain. Yep. And we're also leveraging additional ways to capture responses outside of just this 2-day period. I've been working with Darren on, potentially pushing some of this through the terminal Wi-Fi as well. It's not intended to replace what we do with boots on ground, but it's more intended to just complement it as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
As we close the meeting, I would like to say that the goal that Sean and I put out was to get control of the length of these meetings, and this went really long. I think we had some really good feedback and a pretty robust agenda, and I don't think 10-year contracts are to be taken lightly. I really look forward to implementing the governance where we can have some committee meetings and committee feedback to address the length of the meetings. With that, is there anything else?
Did you want to touch on any old business?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I've missed old business. We've got a couple updates
So
from
last
Sean.
Thursday, I testified at the House Appropriations Committee for Government Operations Division, Chairman Munson there. So the Aeronautics Commission, the Airport Association, Grand Forks Dickinson, and myself. Went well. They had lots of questions and more about statistical things at each of the airports, passenger counts, airlines, and so forth. But that will be moving to the full House Appropriations Committee at some point here in the next few weeks, and we'll monitor when that will happen. Commissioner Strand had asked for a safety update, something there. There's nothing to report since the last meeting. There are safety briefings given every week with the parking ramp and also the terminal building with McGough, and we don't have nothing to report for the airport authority. Follow up to the airline station manager meeting recap. We engaged Brandon with Mead and Hunt and Joe Casper with McGough to look at a couple of items, and that was, adding heating or cooling to the boarding bridges. The vendor with Oshkosh Aerotech would look at somewhere around $22,000 per gate. So if we have 9 gates, that's about $200,000 plus the electrical plus the Excel cost. If you're adding heat, they can add that, I guess, at any time if that's something that you desire. But I caution you that there are issues when you put heat in a boarding bridge, especially in the winter with ice issues. That's what's experienced by those that have put heat there and they wish they didn't do it. Wheelchair lift, we talked about that. As you know, we reported that when the expansion is completed, the airlines will have access to an elevator on the secure side that they don't have access to now, which will make the handling of heavy wheelchairs more efficient than what they have today. However, if a lift were added, which Oshkosh Aerotech has access to a lift through a company called Austrostar. It's about 60,000 per gate. So if you take 9 gates, it's 540,000 to add those lifts. That's if the airlines agree to use them. Right now, I think they're considered a safety hazard. As they go up, I mean, somebody got crushed. That's why Northwest took theirs out here years ago because somebody got killed. They're not safe, but it is something that is available on the market. But number one, you'd have to have an airline agree to use them. And I don't think right now we have anyone that would agree to use them because of the safety issue. The other thing was a baggage lift, as you see at a lot of different airports for gate check bags. You enter the boarding bridge, and there's usually a shelving unit that's built into the boarding bridge where the bags are put, and then it's lowered to the ramp area, and they take the aircraft in. And the reverse is true when you come back. They're looking at about 70,000 per gate to add those. At 9 gates, that's 630,000. So all in all, those items about 1.4 million plus the electrical installation and plus whatever the Excel cost would be for those. But these are being looked at. That's kind of the update that we have, but no decisions have been made at this point as Oshkosh Aerotech and Mead and Hunt kind of look for opportunities.
Mead and Hunt will be making recommendation.
They would be involved with that along with Joe Casper from the back, but we'll work with Brandon to see if that's something we want to put in. But first, before we proceed and say, put in this wheelchair lift, you have to have the airlines agree to use it. I mean, you're going to put $60,000 in equipment out there that they will refuse to use because it's a safety issue. I don't think that's a good decision.
Part of that, we didn't have an elevator on the secure side. It was cumbersome. They had to come post security, go back and go through. But I mean, once they knew we had an elevator going in, they're all good with that.
I would rather wait until the addition gets open, the elevator's in use, let the airlines go through the process of accommodating those wheelchairs. You can always add it in the future. Adding it now, I don't think is the best thing to do. Plus, I don't think anybody's going to use it anyway because it's not safe.
Well, and I think the objective was just really we met with them, we heard a bunch of things. We don't want to do anything that they don't want. I think the other thing was just the equipment in the cold weather. And so I think you put a really good summary together, Sean. I appreciate that. And I think that might be something we can look at and say, okay, what are the areas that we should move forward with or not? I don't think we need to decide anything like today, but we've got an opportunity here to look at those.
They're all things that can be added. As far as the cold storage building or maybe slightly heated building for de-icing trucks, we got to work with Jeff and Terry to see where that would best fit out on the ramp area, and then work with the properties people at each of the airlines to see if they're willing to pay for it. I mean, that has been talked about before. Your predecessor said if they're not going to pay for it, we're not going to build it.
And I think that should be something we look at as a board. I mean, I understand all that history, but I mean, we heard pretty clearly that that's a real problem for them. And so I think what we want to do is have an airport where airlines want to come here and try and control the things that we can control. It's always going to be cold, but what can we do to make it better for those airlines to come here? The other thing on old business is I think we were the airport of the year.
Yes.
Got the plaque hanging in the
Yeah, we should celebrate that a little bit.
It's in the office.
Okay.
I got it hanging.
February was a record boarding month again. And then the only other news that's out there is Allegiant announced that they're exiting the Los Angeles market due to increased costs. Their last operations will be in September. I think they're down to a couple of markets, not more in LA. So I'm working with another carrier right now to look at the LA opportunity. They're based in Burbank, and we'll see what goes there. It's probably a little too late for them to make a summer decision, but it is definitely on their radar, and myself and Mr. Lum will be continuing those conversations with that carrier.
So has landline suspended or stopped?
I think it's going to be stopped.
Suspended for now.
Well, they've got both.
Yeah, I think they talk suspended, but I think it's stopped. They're bleeding pretty heavily out in their East Coast markets, so they're moving all of this equipment out to the Philadelphia area, and I think one over to Denver to do more things with American and United in those short haul markets. I think it's over. We'll see.
I'm not so sure that that's a loss for us. I mean, our competition is getting people to fly here, not out of Minneapolis, and
it was good revenue. It definitely was good revenue. The parking, about $18,000 a month is what they attributed for parking for those that were coming here to take the bus. But so there will be some parking loss, definitely.
The other thing, just with SP Plus, they're adopting the new logo. Just a reminder that we need to keep on that path, switching over to the new logo. And we're gonna use up any materials we have with the logo on it. But, in electronics, like they've been able to do, we should be starting to consciously make that decision to implement.
I'd like to thank Darren and Joe Casper. I took a really great tour of the airport construction areas yesterday, and I encourage my fellow board members to do the same.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.